Greetings once again, my friends, and live from Retro Central. My name is Peter, and this is a special episode of Consolation. As always, I thank you very much for taking the time to check out my work. I really do appreciate it. As I film this, it is Christmas Eve of 2015. 25 years ago, 18-year-old me, rather than doing anything else that an 18-year-old would probably be doing, was spending time in bed, hoping and praying and wanting and wishing for time to go by fast. Why? Because there was a possibility, not a definitive possibility, but a possibility nonetheless, that I could wake up the next morning and be the proud and extremely excited owner of a Nintendo Entertainment System. I didn't have an NES yet by this time in 1990. I was still using my Commodore 64 computer that my paternal grandmother had given me as a present for graduating from 8th grade back in 1986. My paternal grandmother was basically the person that supported my video game hobby as much as she could when I was growing up. Growing up in a single parent household of three, it was always difficult to have a lot of money to afford video game consoles or games or even going to arcades. I had a very meager allowance. So the only time that I got to go to arcades and have a fair amount of tokens to spend or games to play or games to be able to purchase was through my paternal grandmother. She was, to me, she was Santa Claus, but year-round instead of just for Christmas. So in November of 1990, I had come home from a day at college. College was very taxing. It really didn't fit in well. It was kind of like high school. Still very nerdy, very much a loner, so I didn't have a lot of friends, and I spent my time, if I wasn't in school or studying, I was kind of locked in my bedroom playing games or maybe going to the arcade once a week. But when the JCPenney Wish Book came, my grandmother asked me, as she did every year before then, it was our tradition, to go ahead and fill out a wish list for Santa Claus. So I leafed through the catalog, and I saw a Nintendo action set, and I was just... something persuaded me that I should just put this on my list. It was $100, which certainly was way too much money, more than anyone could have really afforded at that time. But I went for broke. Maybe I was, maybe I was being selfish. Actually, I was being selfish, to be perfectly honest. But it was the only thing that I wanted that year. So I put it on the list, and my grandmother was looking over my shoulder as I'm kind of circling things and making out the list. And another video machine, she asked me, and we got to talking about what the NES was and the games that it played and why I was so interested in it. And I tried to answer all of her questions, but it seemed like it was probably going to be for naught. But I was 18 years old anyway. I mean, making out wish lists, who does that at 18? I figured if I just put it down there, the worst thing that could happen was that I wouldn't get it. And although it kind of put more pressure on her because she liked getting gifts every year, it really didn't give her many more options as to what to get me. Looking back at that decision in retrospect, I probably should have went about that differently, but I didn't. So I put it on the list, and she said, well, we'll see. I can't be sure. And that was the end of the discussion. So the weeks rolled by, and finals were going on in college before I knew it. And when you're a voice major in college, one of your final exams as a voice major is to give for me it was to give a three-song performance to my voice professor, which was a lot of pressure. It's basically giving a concert for one person. And that person has the ability to tell you what your grade is going to be at the end of the year. So there's a lot of pressure stemming from that. It was my first semester of college, so I wasn't used to the whole final exam cramming kind of thing. So time went by really quickly. I worked hard, and I managed to get on the dean's list that year despite my struggles. But then I had about a week or so to just think about what would happen if I actually had an NES, because I didn't have one. Friends of mine back when I went to high school had them, and that's how I had my NES experience. Going to a buddy's house out in Worcester, Mass, and playing RBI baseball and track and field and Top Gun. or going to my friend Kevin's house when I was living in Greenfield and watching him play through Castlevania 2, or us playing Vindicators together, for example. So my NES experience was always through someone else, but never on my own. So on Christmas Eve 1990, as selfish as it sounds, I laid in bed and I wanted nothing but for Christmas Day to get here. Went to midnight mass that night, and I apologized to my grandmother there for being so difficult with the wish list. It had been bothering me that I had only gone this route. You know, I was an adult. I should be getting my own stuff at this point. And she kind of smiled after I apologized, and she said that she would see, that Santa would see how I was, making that Santa Claus illusion. So Christmas morning comes, and being an 18-year-old, you don't get up early for Christmas. You sleep, and that's what I did. I slept until like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I came downstairs, and the first thing I opened was this big box, and I could see Nintendo Action Set on the box. And although this isn't the same system, seeing this in a box on Christmas morning in 1990 was emotional. I cried. I hugged my grandmother for what must have felt like forever. This meant so much because really for the last couple of years before then, back when I had first played an NES, I knew this was a system that I wanted. And for circumstances, some within my control and some beyond my control, I just could never get one. I couldn't afford one, or circumstances just led me to not being able to get one. And now, on Christmas of 1990, 25 years ago, I finally had my own system. And it wasn't the only thing that I got. Obviously, being the Action Set, you got the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, which I played and learned to hate the Duck Hunt dog. Super Mario Brothers 3, which arguably is the best Mario Brothers game of all time. Some may argue other things, but to me it definitely belongs in the conversation. Super C, it wasn't Contra, but it was still a great game to play, and to me it was a little bit tougher than Contra was. I remember playing this on Christmas morning before heading over to my aunt's house from my grandmother's, and being frustrated that I couldn't get very far until I learned about the 10 lives code, but that's a story for another time. And perhaps the most important game, and the one that I'm always going to remember from 25 years ago, is Jeopardy 25th Anniversary Edition. My grandmother and I used to watch Jeopardy every night on TV. I used to come home from school and, I used to do my homework or whatever, but 7 and 7:30 were our game show times. I loved watching game shows on TV and playing along, and, older people, I guess that's just what they did even back then. And I used to play along with Jeopardy and see how well I used to do, and my grandmother had actually seen this in the JCPenney catalog and had joked around about how if she was going to get me this Nintendo video machine, that she was going to get me this so I could practice to be on TV. So this was the first thing that I played on Christmas morning, and it meant a lot to me. And as I have this in my collection again, I had parted with my NES stuff in 1999. I sold it all, and I had about the same size collection that I have now, about 200 games or so, for a Dreamcast. Foolishly, but I wanted a Dreamcast really badly, and I didn't have the money. So games that like Super Mario 3, like Jeopardy, games and things that my grandmother had given me, even though she died in 1996 and I lost her, I didn't even think about that at the time. But now, when I got an NES for my 40th birthday, which is the one that I showed you, I have another one under here. The one that I got for my birthday doesn't work anymore, but when I got that NES and when I got those games, when I started getting games again for my 40th birthday, replacing the games that my grandmother got me was very important because my grandmother was such a big part of my life, and this was one that I desperately needed to own. And I am very happy to have this in my library, because when I play it, or when I play any of the Jeopardy games, whether it's for the NES or other systems, or even when I watch it on TV to this day, which I still do at 7:30 at night, I think about my paternal grandmother, who years later, I I recognize all the sacrifice that she made, and the things that she did to try and make a better life for me when my mom just wasn't able, because she was on her own, trying to bring up three kids with limited means. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, tried to give me the life that I couldn't have, and I didn't appreciate it as much then as I do now. And as I look back on that night 25 years ago, it's a memory that touches me, and makes me, leaves me very emotional still. I miss you, Grandma. I miss you a lot, and thank you, although this is late. Thank you for everything that you did for me, everything that you gave me, all the support that you gave. I would not be the person I am today without the things that you did for me and the support you gave me. To all of you who celebrate Christmas, who observe Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas. To those of you who celebrate other holidays, I wish you the happiest and safest of holiday seasons. And to each of you who have watched any of my Consolation videos this year or before, I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And I hope that you'll continue to check out my work in 2016. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great holiday season. And until the next time, take care.